Well, the interesting thing about the African Centre for Human Capital Development is it's not just about a development centre. ACHCD Steelworks, as a federal facility, has its own federal airstrip, which is a 1.5 kilometre long airstrip. It's got acres and acres of land around it, and the Steelworks is just not using it. So when I came across that, we start to scope out a much bigger vision. So Africa Gateway really comes from the fact that people are trying to get freight in and through Africa in a safe and secure way. But equally, some of the big logistics and supply chain companies are trying to establish a foothold or a beachhead in Africa, because that's where they're going to need to be to service the growth that's coming and is already taking place. So what we did over the last few months really is to start to bring to the table some of the bigger brands, the FedExes, the DHLs of the world, and start to talk to them about, well, why aren't you in Africa? And what we realised was that traditional blocks of corruption and inaccessibility and broken promises were littered across all sorts of stories. So when I said, well, potentially what you could have then is a purpose-built environment that we're running as African Centre for Human Capital Development, that brings into play the established aircraft receipt and dispatch capability, utilises the Steelworks' vast array of warehouses, factory units and land to build on, and then to play into part as well the fact that the Niger Delta area of river has been dredged all the way up to ACHCD so that it can actually receive in wet weather or wet seasons the deep river capabilities of container ships. And it was only when we sat down in December of 2013 with the Minister and said, look, we could create a gateway that brings some of the world's greatest logistics and supply chain brands into ACHCD and allows them to establish a presence. By default then bring in all the retail brands, all the manufacturing brands that are trying to establish themselves, the construction brands that are trying to distribute their products to meet some of the construction and infrastructural needs. Everybody wins. So that's exactly what we've done. We've created a gateway, which we're now in the process of getting a license to become a free zone, and the free zone allows people to ship in and actually not pay duty until they need to for onward shipping. Now, the land mass that's around ACHCD is phenomenal, because then you start looking at hotel construction to feed literally the amount of people that are going to be operating in there. But more importantly for us as Activate Change and the ethos and values of African Centre for Human Capital Development is the fact that all around the Steelworks there's thousands of ACHCD citizens that could then be gainfully employed. Now, in terms of the sector skills councils in the UK and all of the various trade bodies and associations associated to logistics, you can start to see that we're now bringing a capability to start to improve in terms of road transport, air logistics, ground handling, and we can train those skills through the academies, and everybody can start to be deployed. So we're creating even more employability on the doorstep, aside from that of the programs that we're launching in other areas. So it's a very compelling story, and we're now starting to really engage with some of the big providers to say, come to the table and talk to us, because brands in and brands to support makes perfect sense. Everybody gets a commercial benefit. Nigeria gets the ability to finally become a showcase as an Africa hub, and ACHCD gets the employability for its citizens and a growing consumer economy on the doorstep. So it's a perfect story for us. So we're now reaching out and we're saying to brands, if you want to come in, now you need to come and talk to us quick, because there's going to be a stampede, which is fantastic. But it allows us to make sure that the best brands and the best capabilities are sitting in ACHCD for the growth that we believe is going to come.